And we are live. Good morning, good evening, good night. This is another scene in Darkness in Dublin, Mage Venue. At a small little social little Hyun recovered from her, well, I won't say recovered, but mobile after her trauma. She has been given basic information by Daniela after Daniela recovered somewhat from her ever more frequent lapse of dementia, and told her that the name of the individual was Stefanos and gave her his address, which is in a nice little suburban neighborhood, part of it's just part of suburban Dublin. So would she take the address and go? What would she do?
Yeah, pretty much she's taking an Uber to the place.
That is entirely fair. If and when you arrive, it's a decent-looking house, but all the lights are off. However, there is a sort of a door on the side leading to the backyard, if you know what I mean, like kind of like a gate. In the backyard, you can see there is a sort of a large outbuilding with a chimney. There is light coming from the inside and smoke rising from it. And possibly sounds of cursing.
Okay, she heads towards the sound of banging and cursing. Possibly understanding that a death metal album may be being recorded at the moment.
I mean, the sounds are not so dissimilar. And just to get proper context on this, I gotta ask you, Tiger.
Yes.
What's Hyun's dexterity score?
3.
Okay, good. Good. Then the cursing is probably just due to a bit of bad luck on Stefanos' part. I was gonna say, if you had dexterity 1 or 2, he was just gonna be like, my forge! What are you doing? But fortunately, you're good. You have the same dexterity as him. Okay, so if you approach, you just knock, or?
Yeah, she knocks.
Okay. A minute or so later, a figure is actually going to open the door. It's not Stefanos. I have limited ability to make these as backdrops. This guy is going to open the door.
Blank, 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 which is very hard to do when you have an eye patch.
It blinks back at you.
Why am I staring at the Silver Surfer?
And behind him, you see a golden one. That one's currently carrying like a pile of lumber.
She says this loud enough to be heard.
Well, the silver one's just looking at you like, are you expected?
Does it actually say that?
Yes. They do have the ability to speak.
Probably not.
Boss! At that point, Stefanos is going to put down whatever the hell he was holding, probably passing the tongs straight off to Hyun, like, oh, you know what to do with this, right?
Holds the tongs. It's kind of, you know that look people do things when they've been handed things and they have no idea what the fuck they're doing?
Fortunately, you have gloves and they're tongs, so you're probably not going to take any damage.
Yeah.
Stefanos will, like, move towards the door and take a look. And he's just like, Miss Langley, wasn't it?
Dr. Langley, yes.
Of course, sorry. Come in. I'm glad to see you recovered.
Recovered is stretching it.
I am. Well, welcome to my forge. And he motions for the silver figure to close the door. Asimi, why don't you fetch her something to drink? It'll just kind of glare at him like, really? Really, this is what I've been reduced to. And it'll go and do that.
What is my purpose? You pass butter. Oh my god.
My God. Pretty much. He's also going to nod and say, I think, I don't know if you remember, but this is Hyun?
Hello.
I don't think we've met. Hello.
I think it was very brief. I don't know if formal introductions were made or not.
He was part of the secondary team that with me that entered the Leviathan under Miss Hoff.
I have very few remaining memories of that incident.
Ah. Well, it was very exciting and saddening in some cases, but it was I've not had to write reports before that simultaneously list a mission as a success and a failure. It's very complicated.
Well, I'm glad to see that you survived. However, I'm going to need my data slate back, please.
Oh, it's right over there. He literally plugged it into the wall. It's fully charged. Like an idiot, he probably let it fully charge and keep charging.
It's not going to hurt it any.
Well, yeah, I'm just saying normally battery life would be somewhat reduced. But it's just sitting there.
Walks over, picks it up. Thank you. And puts it away because she's not going to contact Cabal just yet.
That's fair. We need Evan for that anyways. That's like these guys are scrub familiars. I kind of know how Adam uses them and shit. I can do them momentarily. Cabal. Yeah. Anyways. So you said you don't remember much. Do you remember the gist or
No. I only remember small patches, and even that is very fuzzy.
The Leviathan is currently in orbit over Jupiter, or not Jupiter, pardon me, Mars with the Aetherites, probably being repaired by them.
Hands.
Yes. I did what I could to try and repair some of the power conduits during the escape. Apparently, it was effective enough that we got out of there with between everything else that was going on. But let's see. The ship's safe. However, that power source.
The ship can be scrapped for all I care.
I mean, if it were, that would be. That is a high price to pay for a scrap heap. But the price I don't think would have been paid anyways. I apologize. So I understood that because you seem to know quite a bit about the innards of the place, and you were leading or majorly assisting with this expedition, you have some familiarity with the technocracy. You are you now of the Aetherites though, or?
I have not made a decision as of this moment.
Oh.
In all technicality, I'm still Iteration X.
Ah. He just kind of looks over at Hyun like, eh?
Hyun shrugs with the tongs.
Oh, you can put that down in the bucket now.
Oh, he will do so.
I feel I have to ask, why are you surrounded by naked metal men who seem to be well proportioned?
And also very bearded.
She's not mentioning the beards.
Actually, I think they're supposed to be built like Ken dolls, if I'm not mistaken. But anyways,
Either way, well proportioned. They are buff as fuck.
yes, they are. He's like, they they're part of the package apparently. The forge. By the way, do you have Prime Sight or anything similar?
She just gained Prime, so she doesn't know how to activate it yet.
Oh, lovely. I guess if you've got like a couple dots in awareness, you might realize you're near a node.
Let me see what my perk aware is.
I mean, Hyun knows. He's been told that.
Awareness, deuce, perception 3.
Perception 3, awareness is under your talents.
Yeah, it's 2.
Okay. Do you want to make a roll or?
Yep.
Go. Holy balls!
6, 8, 7, 10.
Okay.
There she sees.
That's 5 successes on a perception awareness. I would just go out on a limb and say, oh boy, there's magic. Yun has magic. Things in him have magic. The two men have magic. Stephanos has a lot of magic. The forge has a lot of magic. The fire in the heart of the forge is the source of the magic.
That's a lot of magic.
That is. There's probably... I don't know how much Hyun has, but there's probably... in this room total, and you might not know where all of it is, you're probably surrounded by at least 20 points of quintessence.
And yet she's still questioning why he's got a bunch of buff, naked metal dudes around him.
Well, he did answer that.
I do not recall.
What he basically said was it was part of the package, and then he indicated the forge and all the trappings.
Part of the package. I see.
It's a long story, but
I'm not one to judge.
I guess you could say they served me in a past life. That's as close to it as any.
They did.
Jens just kind of raising an eyebrow as Stephanos digs himself further into this hole.
To which Stephanos is just like totally oblivious because manipulation 1, subterfuge 0. He is so blissfully ignorant, it's cute. So, you said you had not made up your mind. Hey. Obviously, perhaps rather than just make a pep talk or a pitch, I should just ask, what are you looking for? What motivates
Someone
you?
who won't kill me, obviously.
Well, I mean, I'm not going to lie. There are individuals who would probably kill you just for who you used to work for, but
yes, that leaves most of the traditions out of the area. And I prefer more careful endeavors and scientific understanding instead of, oh, I just made this bullshit up. Let's see what I can change.
Well...
Also, I'm an atheist.
Well, then the choristers are out.
Do you think I joined that pack of madmen?
Well, they're also... Well, I was going to say, they are still technically part of the traditions, but a large portion of them did quit and were about to be in open war with them.
I'm not surprised. I've met the High Marshal.
But, apparently they started purging their own ranks. It's rather gruesome.
I'm not surprised. I've met the High Marshal.
He is kind of a tool. And by kind of a tool, I mean
They also started wearing red robes and talking about how no one expected that. No, I'm just kidding. I'm not surprised. I've met the High Master. I'm just kidding.
Right?
No, but in all seriousness. Okay, let me ask then.
By the way, does Hugh have like spirit sight or any other senses up at the moment?
He does not.
Okay.
I got Spirit and Prime, if that helps.
When you look at Asuka, you see someone who is a perfectly normal human.
I think he saw that the last time he looked at you, though he may not. I don't know if I
the
have
last time he looked at her, he saw her without the stealth suit on, basically.
Or without the chip thing. Yeah.
But the time before that, yes, he's seen this particular trick before.
He's going to blink and just be like, I'm really curious how you managed to mask yourself that way.
I had assistance, and it was about a month-long process to actually make the chip.
Chip. Interesting. If I know the principles behind it, I might be able to do something. Not anything like that, but...
Wait, you were able to do that with a chip?
Of course.
Hyun, looks like he's incredibly angry for a minute, and then just lets out a deep sigh.
What's the matter?
So, apparently, there's going to be this whole process where me, before the whole amnesia thing happened, was going to go into hiding for reasons. And in order to make it more difficult to track me, they were going to tear out my, he'll kind of snap his fingers and tries to remember my genius, my eidolon, something like that.
Why would they do that if they could just put a chip in you?
That's what I'm wondering.
Well, to be fair, they hadn't thought of the chip. This isn't something that I had a pre-existing plan for. We developed a chip in Hong Kong.
Ah.
The chip itself is actually modular design, and that part was standard, but the part that gives the cloaking and mental protection, that was actually a collaborative effort.
Interesting. Between yourself and, you leave that hanging?
My team in Hong Kong, a progenitor at the time, and a member of the Virtual Adepts who I don't plan on working with again.
There are a fair number of those in the city, and they seem very eclectic.
Oh, don't get me wrong, Virtual Adepts as a people are quite interesting, but, well, that particular one I'm not a fan of.
Well, all right, so far it sounds like you don't want anything religious, check. You want something that has a system and doesn't just, as you said, make shit up as they go along. I mean, I've done that occasionally, but I know I'm doing it. I'm also still learning. I'm assuming the Aetherites are not a match, then.
They're fairly close for a match. I can put up with some of that nonsense. I mean, honestly, if you look at the way physics works, dark matter and the aether aren't that dissimilar, but, well, the ether doesn't fucking exist.
That might be a... I'm assuming that's one of their... I remember reading that their name comes from the theory of ether.
It does.
Then I assume that having that point of view might earn you a little bit of... possibly some hostility from some of the elder members?
They used to be called the Difference Engineers a long time ago. Pretty sure they don't care, as long as I document everything that I do.
That's fair. Documentation's very important. I suppose now is the time for at least a tiny pep talk. I'll try to keep it brief, though. I've already tormented Hyun with it.
Are you his assistant, then? She looks at Ian.
No, I just don't know what I'm doing, so I just kind of hang around here a lot.
Ah.
I thought I might try and work with him a bit and see if he had any talent for metalworking. He's got good hand-eye coordination, at least. That's a start.
Yes. Good hand-eye coordination is always important when working with high-temperature metals.
Yes.
She says this with a completely blank look on her face and the eye patch.
Thanks.
Over his head. Blinks a couple times. All right, so short version. Order's been around for ages. They have a lot of... yes, I am of the Hermetics.
You're with us Harry Potter cosplay wannabes.
I had my reasons for joining. Originally, it was almost a toss-up, but they have some good.
I've got to hear.
They have some very good people in their ranks. They are. Before I ever met one, I was told by some others in this city about some of their past atrocities, and I use that term accurately.
I can name one right off the top of my head. House Tremere.
And I will one-up you with one called House Diedny.
And I can one-up you permanently with the fact that the Union exists.
Oh. I haven't read that deeply into the history texts.
Well, according to our own histories, the Order of Reason was founded because the Hermetics decided that they didn't want to share information, and that burgeoning technomages were simply not allowed to learn anything or help the masses. So they did it anyways, and they shared information and knowledge, not just with each other, but with the common people whom the rest of the mage community looked down on. And what do you know? A couple centuries later, and the Union is winning.
That sounds fairly close to what I've seen. The Order, I can see where that could definitely be where they're coming from, but they seem to have branched out a little bit from the roots. They have many houses, and these houses have many different styles and skill sets. Technology is actually the purview of one of their houses, Verdicius.
My God, they've actually gone past the time of Euclides.
To be fair, they apparently do just as much hermeticism as actual high technology. They use sometimes it's one or the other, and sometimes it's a fusion, such as a computer that has circuitry laid in pentagrams.
That sounds horribly electrically inefficient.
Yes, but apparently very proof against thaumaturgical attempts to interfere.
Yet it still sounds like bullshit for some reason.
Well, that actually draws into... Alright, so hypothetically, if you were to join, I don't imagine you would be a quote-unquote actual apprentice or anything, at least not for a while. Consider this a spoiler. You're supposed to learn this on your own, but I think this might actually help both of you, since you already know how to do... He actually makes the finger wiggling. Alright, so usually when we get an apprentice, we start them off with... This is before they've awakened. Apparently we give them lots of books. We have them study all sorts of minutiae. Symbols, chants, words, gestures, and all these other things. Some of it works. Some of it doesn't. This is what they call hedge sorcery. It's not true magic. It's lesser magic. Still works, but very different.
While he's saying this, Asuka has the exact expression that's in her picture.
God damn it. Blake. But, how to put this? Here's the trick. At some point, eventually, they learn how to cast their first spell as an awakened mage. They're usually very proud of themselves. But then the lesson isn't actually that these things taught you how to do magic. They didn't. All the words and the symbols and everything else, they only have whatever power you give to them. What actually does the magic is your awakened will.
So, in other words, the Order knows that what they're doing is complete and utter bullshit, and it's really just a matter of bending reality to your will.
Yes, but doing so without a way to focus the mind is much more difficult, so why lose the trappings?
The Union teaches that in a slightly different fashion. They basically tell you, yes, it's all bullshit, but in order to correctly change things around you so that you can do things properly, you need precision, methodology, and above all, the focus and drive to do so, which is most often utilized in scientific instruments. It's just simple when you have some way to measure things.
The, how to put this? That does seem very similar in some ways, but, it's...
Although, as I understand it, have either of you ever seen the original Men in Black movie?
I have. He looks at Hyun.
I don't remember anything before a month ago, so no.
I'd suggest watching it as soon as you can, because that movie is almost a documentary of how the NWO recruits new agents and trains them in field work. Damn it.
Oh no. Do they actually burn your fingerprints off?
For some agents, yes.
Interesting.
Thanks.
It's very important that they leave no lasting impression when they have to do cover-up work.
So the mantra that Zed gives them about you are a figment, you are a shadow, and so on and so forth.
In the actual nomenclature, I believe Zed would be considered a man in gray. Middle management.
Interesting.
Don't ask me for much more intelligence on that. I only know so much. I know that their hierarchy consists of men in black, men in gray, and men in white, but beyond that, I don't know. Say, organizational structure.
Still more than I knew. I'm trying to think what else I could tell you, honestly.
Well, what you've given me is at least enough to think about. At least they're not all Harry Potter cosplay wannabes.
Well, again, I wouldn't necessarily be open about the whole...
I've met one of the older members of House Flambeau before.
There is a somewhat experienced one of them here as well. A master, or rather a magister, by the name of Denofrier. She is actually the reason I joined the Order. She is, I don't know what she would think about you, unless you were, shall we say, recalcitrant and wanting to defect, then you might
have... Let me place this before you, then. I have two choices. Request reassignment and hope that another team can fix this in my place, or see this through and realize that I will never be able to return to the Union that I am part of. I am not part of the union that you're fighting. There has been a schism.
Interesting. He's gonna look over at Hyun like, he's been dominating this conversation. He's just like, hmm?
I think, he thinks for a second. What was it, Cypher 9? That's the big nasty guy right now.
Cypher 9 is one of the overseers. Technically, he's part of Iteration X, but, well, once you get past Director, you really don't belong to a faction anymore.
Yeah.
I can actually at least explain some of those ranks if you're curious.
More thinking, you're against that guy, I am assuming.
What was that? It kind of broke up a little.
Oh, sorry. He said you're going against that guy, I'm assuming.
Yes. There's reasons that my faction of the Union has split with Cypher 9 and his followers.
Okay. Cool.
And, well, I'll be honest, Project Morpheus, as I've discovered, was more than likely the entire reason for it.
That's fair. That's fair. I found out recently the guy who did this to me, and he'll kind of pop his claws out of his hand, among the other cybernetic enhancements and shit, is the guy who suggested that as a thought project, and then they took it seriously.
Oh.
Yep.
Him.
Yes.
How did you learn all of that?
Eliza went poking around my brain, and we found a little interactive hologram of him.
Interesting that he'd leave something like that behind.
It was kind of a last will.
He must have meant for you to recover your memories then.
Mm-hmm. He told me that the only other person who had the access code that could recover them was, I believe her name was Dr. Kristoff. She was on the Leviathan, and she is now dead.
Ah.
For now.
Well, I can help you there. I've got the best cracking software around and a fully utilized AI to run it.
We can try it. I'm kind of worried, though. The last time we did a failed attempt, my entire body just zapped itself.
Well, simply I would take a scan of your mind and then feed it to Cabal so that he can examine the scan intimately. It wouldn't hurt you. It would just, well, it would be an exact copy of you that would be dissected down to the basic level.
That is somewhat disturbing.
Yeah, I never said that the Union were nice people.
I mean, it was a little disturbing, but hey, you gotta do what you gotta do. And
if it makes you feel any better, the exact copy would not be awake for the procedure.
That does help a little bit, yes.
It's also just a Xenox, right?
Basically, yes. It's not a living copy, it's a snapshot.
Ah, that's somewhat better.
The code would still be embedded in the snapshot, which gives us at least a shot at decoding it with Cabal's algorithms. Unlike certain other AIs that the Union has used in the past, Cabal can use organic thinking.
Interesting. I've studied quite a bit of robotics, but I'm afraid I don't know much more than the functional end. I'm far less about the the back end.
I have PhDs in robotics and physics.
It's one up on me.
I've been a bit of a cyberneticist, actually.
Oh, we actually have one of those. Well, aspiring cyberneticist. I'm not sure what his skill is.
Well, At least I can, well, maintain your cybernetics if you wish. She looks at you.
That might be a good idea.
I probably should mention this since I think it might have some positive impact on your decision. D'Onofrier, though I did say she might kill you, she would kill you if she believed you to be an enemy. But if you were to swear yourself to the Order and she believed you to be sincere and were accepting of this, she would lay down her life for you simply because you were a member of the Order. She is that loyal.
That's interesting.
It's not blind loyalty either. She seems to care.
At the moment, I don't believe I'll be going back to the Union. I'll try to salvage what I can from it, especially Cabal. But, well, it's better if I stay and see this through.
I mean, it's your decision, definitely. I just hope you're not going to...
To quote a video game character, has to be me. Someone else might screw it up.
Might have gotten it wrong.
I prefer my version. But yes, you're correct.
But,
I am, of course, willing to well, I can't exactly say donate, but sell technocracy secrets. Anything that I know is open to the tradition.
I'd be careful about the language used. Sell makes you sound more like mercenary, like you're just trying to get a profit.
Well, to be honest, donation would mean that I don't get anything in return, whereas this means I at least get to live and be functional within the traditions. That's pretty much my price.
I suppose. I can take that information to my magister at some point, when you're not in the building, and I don't know where you are.
I doubt you could track me.
No, I'm just saying, just in case she decided to show up with a fireball in hand or something. She's done it before.
By all means, go ahead and send her a report that I am intending to defect. I'll have to send a similar report to my comrades in the Union.
And and you said you're considering the Aetherites as well as the Order? Any others?
No. I have no ties to the Thaumaturge. I'm not that impressed with the Cult of Ecstasy. And I'm pretty sure the Akashic Brotherhood would want me dead regardless.
Weren't they the ones who healed you?
I remember an Akashic being there, but no, I was actually in the Thanatos area.
Interesting. Oh.
Indian temple instead of Chinese.
Was Yuki there, or Samira, or...
Samira.
Yes. Only met her, I believe, once, but... Anyways. I should probably let you know. How long have you been up and about?
A couple of hours. Why?
Oh, geez. I mean, you look well for being just up out of sickbed. He looks at Hyun like with the, oh shit. So, a couple of things happened. This isn't secret or anything. And even if you were still like a technocracy spy or something, you probably already know all of this.
As I briefly mentioned, the choristers did their own internal purging. They're holding the non-Catholic members prisoner, and the rest of the traditions have demanded they return them over. Seems like they're refusing. They are likely to
You'll
go
probably
to war
have to
over.
kill them all. I'm just saying that now.
And
I
the
don't mean
leaders-
the hostages. I do mean the hostage takers.
Yes. It seems that it's been made clear to us that there are many choristers who are intimidated into position. They would turn if they had half a chance. They would prefer the chorus over the canticle. But what else? After the Leviathan mission, there was a major upset. Yuki, a member of Euthanatoi, was on our end of the Leviathan mission, not on your team, but on our team. She was captured. We had put her in a stasis pod, actually operated by that Dr. Krentus. I don't know if she planned on defecting or simply at least working with us to get out of there alive, but it seemed Cypher 9 had marked her for deletion.
In that case, she would have seen no choice but to join the traditions.
Yes, but she put Yuki into stasis. She had some sort of zombie plague, a mutated virus created by this doctor, apparently. The virus was not meant to cause the effects it did. It was a super soldier serum of some kind, pardon the phrase. But
Their progenitors are still working on that bullshit.
apparently it was a successful prototype.
Uh-huh.
Uh,
Just this complete disbelieving look.
Pretty much. Like, they say that every time. All right. Apparently the Union captured her while she was in stasis. She remembers nothing between entering the pod and waking up at a bus stop in Dublin.
Are you sure she's not a clone?
We checked thoroughly, because apparently during the Leviathan mission, they sent a robotic copy of her to disrupt the crew that was on the bridge.
You checked her genetic code?
Very thorough life scans, spirit scans, a whole bunch of other things. I think everyone
Even the
checked.
prime signature was correct?
Well, the disease was gone. There was no trace of it left. And she's now 2 months pregnant.
What?
She did not appear to be pregnant before she entered the pod.
I am aware of that. Why is she pregnant?
Well, it seems there was some history here. Some months ago, well before I had awakened or Hyun had entered the city here, there was some sort of catastrophe about to befall the city, and Miss Yuki made a bargain with an entity known as Faust.
She just stares at the pair of them at this point.
We discovered this because just after we returned from the Leviathan mission, and once the Aetherites had brought us back, most of those who had gone on the mission and a few other people who had just arrived at the city met at Agrabah Nights. It's a club. I don't know if you've actually been there before.
Plenty of times, yes.
It was that was when Yuki arrived, which they had apparently just been discussing how they would go and rescue her and so on and so forth. But after there was the thorough investigation of her, making sure she was who she was and noticing she was pregnant. Oh, and the child has a prime signature roughly as strong as my master.
Good for her. Go on.
Well, that's highly unusual, but essentially, that's when Faust came in. And the entity was riding someone's body. Like, whoever she was, they were already a husk. She broke the bouncer's back on her way in. And he's a fairly intimidating individual. Anyways, he referred to the deal. Yuki acknowledged the deal. Apparently, whatever she had gotten out of the bargain, she had promised him naming rights of her firstborn, which apparently, in the mystical terms, the true name of an individual essentially allows you to rewrite what they are on every level. Is Asuka going through the same expression on the screen again?
Yes.
Let's see. After that, Faust said the child would be born on September 10th.
What?
Which is apparently the date of Project Morpheus.
It is.
Yes, and this was apparently not a coincidence. Faust then chanted in some ancient elder language and then departed. And by departed, I mean it slit his own throat and fled in spirit form. Not long after that, several people who were present wanted to investigate these events further. They called upon a goddess. The goddess actually arrived. Seemed to not think that this was as big a deal as we did, but I guess from a god's perspective, this is fairly paltry.
For an umbral entity of that power, the day-to-day or even century-to-century happenings of humanity is inconsequential.
But, to put it bluntly, she did not see the potential issue, except that it would be inconvenient for us, of course. But she wound up deferring the matter to someone with more immediate knowledge of the situation. She lured down an archangel, which is an incredibly powerful individual, one of the 6.
An incredibly powerful umbral spirit. Yes, I'm well aware.
To summarize everything, after all discussions were done, the apparent conclusion was that Faust likely intends to open the gates of hell itself on that day.
A trans-dimensional portal on the same day that Project Morpheus is supposed to happen, prior to its engagement. That's interesting.
Requiring a massive source of power.
Of course it would. It's a trans-dimensional portal.
And requiring certain things. Such as, well, putting this in mystical terms, there's a book of names. Think of it as a record of all of the true names of everything ever. Very large. And apparently this demon stole a name from that book. And it was the name of the Second Coming. Which would explain why it has such a powerful energy signature.
You're trying to tell me that a demon is attempting to open a portal to hell by attempting to bring about Christian mythology?
Apparently. I suppose it could just
This makes absolutely no sense to me whatsoever.
Well, it did to the Archangel, however, who became afraid.
I mean, let's just assume for a moment that this is accurate, as bizarre as that sounds to me. That sort of event would be literally the end of the world. It would be like deleting deep water, only slightly faster.
What is deep water?
Deep water is a is a technocratic union facility in the Marianas Trench that is directly over the city of Relay. I assume that you've read some H.P. Lovecraft in your time?
I swear to God, they told me Cthulhu wasn't real.
It is, and it's real because there was enough belief in the consensus for Cthulhu to exist. So Deepwater, which was originally simply a storage facility for out-of-control experiments or things that simply didn't go right, became a containment facility for a world-ending event.
That makes us
Our
sick.
fight against Ravnos is nothing compared to what would happen if Deepwater was simply destroyed.
He's just looking at you and like, who's Ravnos?
Man, you gotta stop looking at me for answers on shit. I don't know shit.
This is second-hand information, and I don't know exactly how accurate it is, but I do know about the event. Ravnos was apparently one of the blood-sucking leech's little elders. I don't know exactly how powerful, but powerful enough that 3 of our neutron bombs were not enough.
That sounds incredibly powerful.
Well, you know how powerful the Tsar bomba is?
Yes.
A neutron bomb is about 5 times as powerful as that. And we use 3 of them.
It must have a much smaller radius, though, or else the world would have a giant hole in it.
Yes, actually, and it's a much cleaner device, but, well, the yield is much greater.
Eesh. That's terrifying. All right, well,
You think that's bad? You should see what the Void engineers have on their ships to go in the Deep Umbra.
Well, we've actually seen some of that now.
The Leviathan? No. That's just a local flagship.
Seemed fairly high-tech to me.
Oh, it is. Don't get me wrong. The Leviathan is top of the line. But it doesn't have what's necessary to go into the Deep Umbra safely.
Interesting. All right, so before I forget, I should probably finish. That wasn't the worst of it. All right.
An end-of-the-world event is not the worst of it. Please, go on.
Well, it's more like adding icing onto the cake, I suppose. All right, so to keep it... I'm not keeping it brief. That's very wrong of me. I'll just try. Okay. The Archangel was so worried, it attempted to kill Yuki. It was prevented from doing so. And apparently...
Logical on both ends, honestly.
Well, except that apparently, according to what I've been able to determine, an entity such as that, if it had succeeded in killing Yuki, it would have violated one of the rules of its, I guess, one of its natural laws, if you would, and would have become a demon.
Honestly, I have no idea. That's not my area of expertise.
Essentially, it would be tantamount to worse than suicide for it to risk something like that. So it must have believed the threat was genuine. In any case, at that point, we were thrown back to the bar. Master Siren, I believe that's actually one of the few times you and I met, was when Master Siren, we were in his library. You remember that?
Yes, I remember the library. Continuing.
Well, Master Siren has... I thought his health had been recovering somewhat, but whatever had happened caused... he showed up bleeding heavily in the eyes, and he seemed to blame it on Yuki, and then promptly began to expire. He was stabilized, if only just. The Archbishop arrived, promptly did something akin to excommunicating Yuki, and left with his son, the Master Siren. The next day, there was a baptism of Daniela, one of our friends, and there was a meeting of several of the mages in the Archbishop's study afterwards. This is before they had fled the traditions or become the Cantlers or anything like that. During this lengthy discussion, the Archbishop informed us that he was trying to prevent what I suppose is what's happening now. He was doing his best to prevent the bloodshed and the leaving of the group and everything else. But he was under much pressure because of the stories of infernalism in this city.
Stories
And
which appear to be true.
yes, though he did not seem to believe that Yuki was the source of these issues, possibly just a symptom. He wished for those present and other mages in the city to get to the bottom of it and deal with it in such a way that he could then essentially vindicate himself and show that he was doing the right thing and that we were not corrupted. However, Yuki said that she had an item for him which might help him with this task. She handed it to him, and he promptly burst into green flames. Very corrupted
Skipping ahead
flames.
a little, has she been arrested, interrogated, or is she still loose?
As far as I know at the moment, she is still at large, but I believe we may have set into motion events which may cause her to turn herself in. Hopefully. If I do not know beyond that. But you see, it gets a little bit worse, tiny bit. Almost over. We stabilized the Archbishop, doused the flames, not easy. Before he could do anything, he was frozen in place by some sort of spell, and a man appeared. This man had a very similar aura, I guess you would say, to Faust. Pitch black and powerful.
Demon, got it. Continue.
Except that where Faust's was perhaps a scale 1, this was a scale 5. It rivaled the supposed Archangel.
So you're dealing with a ancient, powerful, deep umbral entity.
Named
Who's
Lucifer.
a demon?
Named Lucifer.
Oh, named Lucifer. So basically you're dealing with the boss.
Apparently. It stated that it did not want any deals. It simply wanted to help, to give us knowledge. Heard that before.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but isn't Lucifer's nickname the Morning Star?
Yes.
Which is basically Venus?
I don't get it.
The Morning Star is another reference to the planet Venus, the star that you see in the morning.
Uh-huh.
Venus has another name, doesn't she?
Aphrodite.
Goddess of what?
Are you besmirching the gods right now, or am I missing the entire context?
No, I'm trying to lead you on a path of logic.
I apologize. Sorry. That felt like it was getting a little personal on my end. What is the logic? By the way, there are 3 statue shrines around.
One of Aphrodite's domains, if I'm not mistaken, is knowledge of tactics and war, yes?
I don't believe so. That's actually Ares. Or possibly Athena in some cases.
My Greek is a bit rusty, so please forgive me.
It's quite all right.
It does seem like no deals, just a free gift of knowledge. Well, that has horrible strings attached.
Except we all had to symbolically agree to accept his knowledge.
Oh.
Yes, that was... Yes. At that point, I had already sworn myself to the order, and part of our rules, I can tell you this much, is do not consort with demons. So
Never make a deal with a dragon, yes.
I could not even speak to it without being in danger of violating my oath. But I had no real wish to. When it spoke and made its offer plain, two individuals were interested in at least considering accepting the offer. That was Samira and Sketch. Sketch has since fled the city. And
Wunderbar, I'm going to need another katana at this rate.
Myself. Sketch may. I don't believe Sketch fled over this. He's more likely he fled the city after. Well, he was responsible for the death of Dr. Krentis.
Again, wunderbar, I'm going to need another katana.
I can make you one. Oh, I'm not really familiar with the style. I could just make you a nice morning star.
One-sided blade, slight curve near the end, and the hilt doesn't really matter. I'm going to be modifying it.
All right, I'll get right on it at some point.
Thank you. I'll share some building secrets with you if you don't mind.
All right. Anyways, two people were interested in at least thinking about it. Several of us, myself included, flat out refused. And then after we had all refused, Yuki said yes. The entity known as Lucifer apparently thought this was somewhat comical.
Think of it from his perspective.
I try not to.
It's a mental exercise, not actually consulting with demons.
No, I understand that. It's just... Anyways, it left at that point, since it did not get what it came for. The Archbishop recovered from the spell and asked where she had gotten this token that she used. It was apparently a calling card, a literal calling card, a tarot card. And she said that she got it from Lucifer outside Agrabah Nights, and that she had taken it because she was worried it might be dangerous if it fell into the wrong hands. He almost killed her, I believe. But people threw themselves in the way and were arguing. I myself thought that the angel would stop him again, but apparently that is not the case. He stopped, and he told us to leave. And the next day, he apparently retired and went into seclusion. Not long after, there was a new archbishop, and they began all of this bullshit. Continued all this bullshit. Apparently, it's been going on for a while. He looks apologetically at Hyun like, you've heard most of this before. I do apologize, but it was important.
That's all.
Well, so Yuki is... From the information that you've given me, basically an unapologetic infernalist who is quite happily barreling down the path to destroying everything.
Perhaps as far as her consequences go, yes, but to me personally, there is at least worthwhile distinction in the reasoning someone had for doing the deal, not as far as it changes the consequences, but it matters because you know what their motivations are and can predict what they will do next. She did not make the deal or the attempted second bargain out of any desire for power. It was apparently a desire to save the city. Misguided, but she's not like bathing in virgin blood trying to become eternally young or anything like that.
So she's not a corporatist, got it.
Blink, blink.
And Asuka's just going to leave that one on the floor.
Hyun, will you pick it up? No. Don't do it. It's crap. Well, that's frankly just about all the information I have. A couple of the mages in the city who disagree with the Infernalist practices have begun meeting, well, here temporarily. Myself, Hyun, a fellow hermetic by the name of Rupert. He is also of House Flambeau. He is a lawyer, though, not a soldier. A virtual adept by the name of Kurzweil, and a unaffiliated fellow by the name of Eric. He's a doctor.
At the name Eric, her visible eye actually twitches.
He just kind of tilts his head slightly.
What's the last name?
Because Solon doesn't remember, insert last name of Mark's character.
Oh.
Why?
Oh. Well, I met a rather older virtual adept while I was in the city. It was before you arrived. We went onto the deep web to help him with finding a familiar. It didn't go well.
And Asuka, in your head.
Fuck you!
I apologize for absolutely nothing.
Nothing to say.
Anyways. Well, that is unfortunate. I believe actually I overheard. I believe I've heard a reference to what you spoke of. That is why, since Winrate has passed, and also this Eric you spoke of. Yes, apparently he died during the final attempt to take over the Leviathan. Something to do with an EMP bomb and teleporting himself off the ship.
Well, at least that's not one more on my conscience.
I don't believe there are any other casualties. At least
15,000 of them.
OC 1500. Don't exaggerate.
Okay, so she said 100 instead of 1,000. Sorry.
I know.
My brain!
I know. And I was just messing with you anyways. I meant other than those. I meant those who were not already dead, though. I thought we were going to recover those souls myself. That seemed to be the plan. I did manage to get one of them back.
She just kind of looks at him very silently. It's clear that she's not feeling all that well right now.
Perhaps we should call it a night. You seem as if you just got off your sick bed. He seems at a loss, just kind of like she's obviously a little out of it, and he's just like, "Oh crap!"
No, this isn't out of it. She looks very depressed.
At him saying they recovered one?
No, she's been looking depressed since before he said that.
Oh, okay.
When she mentioned the 1,500, that's when she started looking severely depressed.
I don't know much about what happened, but I'm sure you did whatever you could.
I don't remember much of it, but I do remember it was my fault.
I would argue it's also the fault of those who originally took them and harvested them out of their bodies. But
I gave the command. to dump the system.
Did you know that that would kill 1,500 people?
Does it matter?
Yes.
No, I didn't know, but I still killed them nonetheless.
If you had not, none of us might have survived. There were apparently 2 Union ships parked in orbit above us. If we hadn't managed to repair the ship, which would have been impossible without the power dumped into the core, we likely would not only have failed to recover anything from the Leviathan, but we would have been trapped there. Even with Gravedigger's help, we almost lost. The only thing I could say is just try to... There are ways to redeem yourself, or at least you can make your life an attempt to redeem them, but nothing... The best way you could do so, in my opinion, would be to live as long as you can and help as many people as possible. Even if it never adds up to the sum total of your sins, it is still... It is what you can do.
Why do you think I'm not asking for reassignment?
I don't know enough about your internal reasonings. I'm not very good at guessing other people's motivations. But
I'm giving up everything to see this through because it's that important. Not just to everyone else, but to the people that I failed.
I can understand that. Well, if there's anything I can do, just let me know. And again, he seems kind of at a loss. Like, he's not used to dealing with this sort of thing. He does not have dots in psychology.
He does not know how to deal with crippling depression and PTSD.
Quick, Hyun, can you do that trick where you, like, upload a skill from the Matrix?
Let me check. No.
No, it'd be funny, like, you load Therapy 101. I can do therapy. Lay down on the couch.
Look at these ink plots. Have you seen this one?
That'd be funny if you could just load one level of psychology. That's all you have. It's like it's enough to diagnose but not treat.
And she finally looks at Ian again. Do you have any idea which faction you came from?
I'm not sure, honestly.
Well, you appear to be a field agent, so there's really only 2 factions you could have come from. Mine or the NWO.
But it doesn't help that apparently these enhancements weren't meant for me. But
And yet they were given to you.
yeah,
If they're not meant for you, then you're probably... I hate to say this, but you're probably just a testbed prototype.
no, I don't know. I've got a misinformation, but 2 conflicting stories, both of whom belong to dead people. So,
Well, I'd be interested in hearing the stories.
well, the
Especially
first
since
one.
I had to just listen to that long one.
Sorry, I couldn't hear that last one.
She said, especially since I just had to listen to that long one.
So the first one, as I said, is the they weren't meant for you. That's coming from Dr. Prentice, who died aboard the Leviathan. Apparently she was also going to go into hiding, was working with the same guy who came up with Private Morpheus. Were both his assistants. But shit went awry. We had to hide something. I can tell you what it is, but I can't leave this room.
Very well.
All right.
There are, I don't know, kind of batteries, I guess. They're called keystones, right? Roughly about the size that could fit in a chest cavity where the heart should go. Speaking of which, I have one in my chest.
What do these keystones do?
They power things, like Project Morpheus. You know those engines aboard the Leviathan?
Premium engines, yes.
They could give enough power to power some of those. They could probably power the Leviathan by themselves.
Holy shit, you're like Tony Stark.
Actually, he's
Yeah.
much more like a high-grade hitmark.
Yeah. Only if anybody tries to remove it from my chest, myself and the surrounding area gets hit by a 12 megaton nuclear bomb.
Oh,
So you're exactly like a high-grade hitmark.
Yeah, sure. Sure. Why not?
Well, good news for you. I know exactly how to fix any parts that you have.
That's good. So,
I've worked on the Hitmark series before. It's practically introductory Iteration X.
but you're sure it's not going to just go off?
it should.
No. Those things are extremely stable.
Now, the man who came up with this Project Morpheus realized right around the time they were actually doing it, hey, this was a terrible fucking idea. Better steal away one of these keystones and make sure they don't get their hands on it. So he knocked me out, did these enhancements, lodged it in my chest, wiped my memory, and blocked it. Not really wiped, I guess, just blocked it, replaced my brain with a supercomputer, and erased the memory of my wife. By the way, I'm married. And sent us on our separate ways. And then I woke up in a facility to a small bald man in robes, and we busted out, and then I was here.
Interesting.
By
I
the way,
would say
Oscar.
that...
But
Yes?
By the way, Oscar, he said he woke up in a lab with a bald man in robes.
Yeah, that could refer to like 15 different people.
That's fair. That is fair. That is fair.
And it's not like Dimitri wears robes.
That you know of. No, I'm just kidding.
He's a nice guy. Said his name was Morhai, but he kind of fucked off after that, so I don't know what his deal is.
Did he seem to know anything else, or?
He told me something about the Akashic Brotherhood and handed me a book, and that's kind of how I learned to do some of my stuff. But there wasn't a whole lot of time for lengthy discussions before he had to leave. Said he'd be back, though, to explain everything.
When was that?
A month or two ago?
Oh, he may not be coming back.
I doubt it. He's probably long gone by now. On the other hand, I need a laboratory.
Funny thing, we're actually trying to acquire one right now.
Really? Where are you trying to acquire it? I could probably help with the purchase.
Well, it's for our group, shall we say. It's we've been looking at commercial, industrial buildings. The vague idea was we were going to find a location and fortify it extensively and use it as a public cover as well.
Mein Gott, I'm having deja vu. This is something I've had to do before, and back then we had no resources whatsoever. Relying on the goodwill of the cabal, and I use the term in a different meaning than the way mages use it, a cabal of different interests in the city of Hong Kong, loosely amalgamated towards the same goal of survival.
Interesting.
They called it the House of Cards, and really it was. Stiff breeze could have collapsed that group. Run by vampires, supported by Kuei Jin and Hsien, mages of the traditions thrown into the mix. I'm not sure, but I think there was some werewolves involved tangentially. It wasn't all that organized.
I'd imagine not, since, I mean, we do have laws against that.
Well, it was an alliance of convenience and survival, considering Hong Kong was cut off from the rest of the world.
Huh.
A kill barrier for anything that was not baseline human.
Oh. Sounds unpleasant.
One of Director Smith's nastier projects.
But yes, we will be trying to find a location soon. If I have your contact information, we can, now that you have your data pad back, I suppose we could try to possibly coordinate at some point, or at least, at the very least, make sure we're not competing for the same property.
Let me put it this way. If you allow me to help your group, I'll help it any way that I can, including with the purchase of the property. I still have contact with the syndicate to finance the purchase. So that's going to earn some favors.
Well, let me just clarify one or two things. First, Hyun, I'm not going to tell anyone about your, thing. I don't want to write another report. I really don't. But also, if as much as I appreciate the offer, I would most likely need to put it this way: if I am to even mention you to my master in any way, shape, or form, which I would have to at some point, even if you were just tangentially involved in the chantry, I have to be mentioning you in the same phrase as has severed ties with the Union and wishes to join the traditions for your own safety.
This is already a well-known fact.
All right. If I can say that to her, then that's good.
Yes, I'm defecting, and I'm going to try to at least get as much as I can in under-the-table support from my faction. Hopefully I can get Cabal and at least a modest stipend. I'll lose the expense account, but that's no small price to pay.
Well, I will see what I can do. There are... The main concern, I was thinking, is regardless of how much faith you might have in your backers, the technocracy itself, I don't believe the Order recognizes, officially anyways, any divisions within their ranks, and still considers them to be, quote-unquote, enemies of ascension.
Well, consider this. I was sent here specifically to help the traditions as my loyalty mission.
Well, yes, but even if you believe that to be true, and even if it is true, again, the Order is somewhat notorious for taking they have a delayed reaction for learning things sometimes.
Who doesn't?
Well, even if this is true, they're still going to consider your allies, even if they are effectively our allies, they're going to consider them to be the enemy for right now. And if you were to actively maintain contact with them, that would be a violation of the oath.
Oh, no. You don't understand. If I declare that I'm going deep cover to my faction, I will never be able to contact them again. They might finance me slightly under the table, but it would be like a nation financing a terrorist cell. They do it, they don't care what happens, and I am completely disavowed. I can gain no help from the Union that is not with Cypher 9. The only things that I could do, if I'm lucky, is get Cabal under my direct supervision and physical location, and have a small payment plan from them.
I think that that sounds a little less crazy. He looks over again. He keeps looking at Hyun like he's just like, I have nothing to base this off of, and I'm looking to the guy who's got amnesia.
Hyun at this point has gone back to trying to arm wrestle with one of the golems.
You're winning.
She looks over at him. Why are you trying to arm wrestle with this silver naked man?
Gotta build up my strength somehow.
Well, at least you're trying to... Well, I'll just put it that way and not go any further on that thought.
Oh, there may be a... Since it... Oh, I should mention, since the choristers, now the Canticlers, are not accepting our peace offering, it seems there may be a mission soon to rescue those they have imprisoned. They were calling for volunteers from the traditions.
Oh, hell no, not this soon.
All right. You're not technically part of the traditions yet anyways. I suppose you would be still in that limbo of asylum seeker.
Even if I was part of the traditions for a week now, I would not be up to this.
That's understandable. You've been off the grid for a couple weeks, so I guess rest well and recover.
I'm assuming Cabal didn't give you access after the Leviathan mission was completed.
I haven't really messed with the pad since we came back.
Knowing Cabal, he'd probably be a smartass to you anytime you tried to access it. His personality is partially based on mine and the project lead, Dimitri Dragomir.
Well,
I can tell you both this much, though. Cabal was in the same class as Aegis, but the methodology was different. Whereas Aegis was basically yet another control with a slightly different outlook, Cabal was given all organic components so that he could think more like a human and thus understand and predict better. Less stagnation, more actual getting things back on track.
At least while we were on the ship for a while, Aegis seemed halfway reasonable, up until the point where apparently we murdered one of the crew.
Aegis always seems halfway reasonable. It's part of her charm and her danger.
I suppose that's true.
Remember, she thinks of all of us as reality deviants to be destroyed. Even if she has feelings for any of us, her core programming will still want to see us destroyed. Cabal, on the other hand, well, he can make his own judgments. He's an unshackled AI. The only thing limiting his developments is, at the moment, his organic RAM.
That sounds remarkably unpleasant.
Oh, no, don't worry. The organic RAM is actually blank clones. No body, well, barely a body, no soul, just a brain in a jar, basically. And lots of them.
That sounds
No
even more
personality.
unpleasant.
We did this as ethically as possible. Blank clones don't have souls or personalities developed. They're just adult brains, sometimes with bodies. Depends on the function. But in this case, we just use the brains. No sense wasting biomass.
Hmm.
So, in a sense, Cabal has a network of organic human brains as his own brain.
The concept seems interesting, at least. In any case, I will take what you've given me and see what I can do with it.
Feel free to report anything I've said, including Union secrets, to your superior. Call it a gift.
That's fine. I'll probably make this an informal report, but Yun,
Yes.
would you mind very much if I started building you some armor?
If you want to, go for it.
All right, because of everyone in our group now, I think you need the most protection.
Got a little bit built into me, and I strengthened my hoodie here a bit, but yeah.
I'm guessing subdermal Kevlar?
Yep. As far as I'm aware.
Well, that's not bad.
No, in fact, it's actually quite good. If he ever gets cut, he won't suffer nasty consequences. Although I would probably upgrade that. Oh, no, never mind. That would take a lot of surgery.
I don't think we're going for Weapon X.
No. I was thinking of upgrading it to the more modern variant instead of Kevlar. Granted, his Kevlar won't degrade because it's not exposed to the sun, but Ripstop is significantly more difficult to destroy.
Huh. By the way, you said you had other cybernetic enhancements, Yun.
Mhm.
So other than the subdermal armor and the claws and he points to the chest, was there anything else?
I've got Wi-Fi access in my head. Just kind of dope.
Do you get
Yeah.
Netflix?
Probably. I don't know. I haven't tried it yet. I don't have an account.
I've got one. Gives you the account information.
And since, they kind of had to take out my heart to put the keystone in, my spine has been replaced with a metal one and also replicates the effects of an average heart.
So does that mean if someone severs your spine, they stop your heart?
That's assuming that they can. I'm assuming they didn't use medical grade steel for that one.
Probably not.
Oh, let's see. You've got the... Do you have a port, or is it just a wireless connection deep inside your skull?
Port for the Wi-Fi access or
Direct
port
connection.
to...
Direct connection port.
Oh, yeah, he'll kind of rub his hand on the back of his skull a little bit, and he'll turn around, and you'll see him push a segment into his neck, and the back of his head will open up.
Oh, it's been a while since I've seen that particular model.
You don't see a human brain. There's a supercomputer in there. It's not gory.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Must to prevent. I'm sorry.
I've got something similar, but it's a newer model. She turns around, pushes her hair out of the way, and presses a hidden latch on the back of her neck to open up the modified port that she also uses, which has the chip in it alongside a Matrix-style data jack at the base of her skull. turns around, and then pulls off the eye patch to reveal the Terminator eye. This is the only other cybernetics that I've got.
Huh. Well, it seems you've both got quite a few tricks.
A little bit.
They really did a number on you, Hyun. I'm sorry.
He'll kind of close the back of he'll close the back of his skull and just kind of shrug and say, "Man, it's done now, I guess. Gonna have to deal with it."
Yeah, I can probably offer you upgrades along the line, but I'm sorry, unless you meet someone who is extremely good with life, there's no going back.
Yeah, I was kind of worried about that.
On the other hand, you're functionally immortal. I mean, as long as the parts don't wear out, you're fine.
And parts can be replaced.
Besides, you've still got less cybernetics than Cypher 9. If he's anything like most of the Iteration X that I know, there's probably barely any organic parts left to him.
This is just what I know. There may be other stuff just kind of lurking around.
Well, once I get a laboratory set up, why don't you drop by and I'll give you a full physical?
Sounds good.
And on that note, I should probably go and get something to eat. If you have a chance, if you're making one last shopping trip before you fall on your knees begging for mercy from the great and powerful Oz, I mean traditions, he actually like gestures towards a shelf that's not far from you, and there's like a couple of engineering manuals. They're like a mixture of Void Engineer and Iteration X stuff from the Leviathan. He basically rated their mechanics like training area.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think you could get me more like that?
I'll have Cabal download all of the pertinent manuals that he can.
Oh, wonderful. That would certainly be a good offer for the Hermetics, I would hope, or the traditions in general.
Yes, and I'll make sure to offload it to a local data storage site before I turn in my report.
Good idea.
Just in case they decide that Cabal needs to be reassigned to Dr. Dragomir.
And with that, he is going to basically head over to the other part of the forge to go and try and find something to eat. Does anyone have anything else we need to do, or?
I can't think of it.
No, we're good.
Okay, because it's like almost midnight over here, and I know it's late on your guys' end too. All right, in that case, thank you players for playing. Thank you watchers for watching. Another scene in Darkness and Dublin.